He held me for 16 years. And I don't think that I did much for him as much as he did for me.
Daddy lived to the ripe old age of 16 and died in February 2010.
He was the dog who changed everything. Daddy was loved for 16 years by millions around the world. And when he died in February 2010, Cesar Millan lost more than a pet. He lost his soul. But what the world didn't know was that behind the scenes, as Daddy fought cancer, and Cesar made the ultimate commitment to adopt him while he was sick, their bond was being tested in ways no one could have imagined. How does a man survive the loss of the dog he called his true teacher of life? And after the heartbreak, what is Cesar Millan up to now? Join us as we tell the tragic story behind Cesar Millan's soul dog. The meeting. The year was 1994. Cesar Millan, a young immigrant from Mexico who had crossed the border just a few years earlier, was walking from Inglewood to South Central Los Angeles. He was on his way to meet a rapper named Redman, whose rising career in hip-hop had created a problem he could not solve alone. Redman, whose real name is Reggie Noble, had a 4-month-old American Pit Bull Terrier puppy. The dog had a big head, beautiful green eyes, and a natural strength that was already becoming apparent. But Redman's touring schedule was relentless, and the puppy was constantly on the move, never able to establish the stability and routine that every young dog needs to feel secure. As a result, the puppy had become anxious, uncertain, and lacked trust in himself and the world around him. Redman knew he needed help. He told Cesar, "I just don't want my dog to get me into trouble." What the rapper meant was that he didn't want a liability. He didn't want to lose his career, his freedom, or his dog because of a behavioral incident. When Cesar met the puppy, he fell in love immediately. But he also recognized the depth of the problem. It was not about teaching the dog to obey commands or perform tricks. It was about building confidence from the inside out and showing this insecure young animal that he was capable and could trust his own instincts. Cesar took on the responsibility as Redman and was entrusted with the 4-month-old pit bull. The arrangement was simple at first. Cesar would help rehabilitate the dog, addressing the insecurity and channeling the strength into calm, balanced energy. What neither man could have predicted was that this arrangement would evolve into one of the most profound human-animal partnerships in modern history. The insecure puppy from South Central would eventually become the dog that Cesar would call his right-hand man and the true dog whisperer. But that transformation was still years away. In 1994, the task at hand was simpler and yet more profound than anyone could have imagined. Teach a frightened young pit bull to believe in himself. But what kind of dog would that frightened young pit bull become under Cesar's care? The partnership. For the next 10 years, Daddy existed in an unusual arrangement. He legally belonged to Redman, but in every practical and emotional sense, he belonged to Cesar as well. The dog lived with Cesar, was raised alongside his pack of Rottweilers, and became a permanent resident at the Dog Psychology Center in Los Angeles. The Dog Psychology Center in South Central Los Angeles was not a typical home for a dog. It was a 2-acre site, complete with a warehouse and fenced-in pens for a revolving door of more than 50 problem dogs at any given time. It was a bustling, chaotic environment where dogs of all breeds, sizes, and temperaments came to be rehabilitated. Daddy thrived in this environment. He had been raised alongside a pack of Rottweilers, and he understood pack dynamics intuitively. He knew how to navigate the complex social structures of the center, how to assert calm authority without aggression, and how to diffuse tension before it escalated into conflict. As Daddy grew from that insecure 4-month-old puppy into a mature adult, something amazing happened. The very insecurity that had once made him anxious turned into an unbelievable level of sensitivity that Cesar had never encountered in any other dog. Daddy became known for his calm temperament, his high tolerance for smaller dogs, and his extraordinary capacity for empathy. Cesar put this gift to work immediately and made Daddy an active participant in Cesar's rehabilitation work. When Cesar encountered aggressive dogs, fearful dogs, or dogs that other trainers had given up on, he brought Daddy in. Daddy would calmly approach these troubled animals. Time after time, the aggression would subside in Daddy's presence. Daddy's role extended beyond rehabilitation. He served as a role model for an entire breed. The American Pit Bull Terrier had a reputation for violence and aggression, a reputation that Cesar was determined to change. Daddy became the living proof that the breed was not inherently dangerous. He appeared frequently in episodes of Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, showing millions of viewers what a calm, balanced pit bull looked like. Cesar trusted Daddy with his hardest cases. The dog who had once been insecure and uncertain became the calming influence at Cesar's side while rehabilitating other dogs. According to Cesar, Daddy never made a mistake. He never displayed aggression or any other negative behavior. As Daddy's fame grew, could anything tarnish the image of Cesar's perfect pit bull? Ambassador for the breed. Daddy became one of the most famous pit bulls in the world. He appeared in more than 50 episodes of Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, and his calm, gentle nature made him a fan favorite. But his impact went far beyond entertainment. At a time when pit bulls were widely feared and associated with violence, Daddy showed the world that pit bulls are well-mannered, loyal, and able to get along with other breeds. Cesar Millan referred to Daddy as an ambassador for the pit bull breed. Daddy's fame brought with it an unintended consequence. The spotlight on Cesar Millan grew brighter and more unforgiving. As Daddy charmed audiences and changed perceptions of pit bulls, Cesar's training methods came under increasing scrutiny from the professional animal behavior community. The criticism was relentless. Millan's techniques were called cruel and were formally rejected by the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior. The criticism centered on his insistent promotion of dominance theory, which experts argued could lead to dogs becoming fearful and insecure, and fear does not equal obedience. Millan was described on the opinion pages of the New York Times as a one-man wrecking ball directed at 40 years of progress in understanding and shaping dog behavior. His methods have been called cruel and were rejected by the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior. The controversy reached a fever pitch in 2006 when a client's Labrador retriever died during training at Millan's Dog Psychology Center. The dog reportedly suffered extreme exhaustion after being forced to run on a treadmill. The incident led to a lawsuit that painted Millan's methods as not just controversial, but potentially fatal. The Labrador's owner, television producer Floty Suarez, alleged that his 5-year-old dog, Gator, was injured at the facility after being choked with a collar and forced to overwork on a treadmill. According to the lawsuit, Suarez later found the dog bleeding from his mouth and nose in an oxygen tent, gasping for breath. The lawsuit claimed breach of contract, fraud, animal cruelty, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The Labrador incident ignited a firestorm of debate. Animal rights groups called for his show to be canceled. A Change.org petition signed by more than 10,000 people demanded that Nat Geo Wild pull the plug. The show that had made him a global celebrity was becoming a tightrope around his neck. But even as the professional world condemned his methods, Daddy remained untouchable. Even Millan's harshest critics could not deny that Daddy was a great dog and breed ambassador. Just when Daddy had become the most famous pit bull in the world, what challenge would threaten to take him away from Cesar forever? The commitment. After 10 years of being with Cesar, Daddy had transformed. But then, at the age of 10, everything changed. Without warning, Daddy was diagnosed with cancer. The treatment began immediately. Daddy underwent chemotherapy. The same brutal, exhausting treatment that humans endure was now being administered to a 10-year-old pit bull. Cesar watched as his beloved companion went through the difficult process. But Daddy endured it. It was during this time, when Daddy was sick, that Cesar made a decision that would show just how much he loved the dog. He went to Redmond and asked for something he had never asked for before. He asked to adopt Daddy permanently. Think about the timing of this request. For 10 years, Cesar had shared Daddy with Redmond, and while he was the one who cared for and worked with the dog daily, Redmond was still the legal owner. Now, with Daddy sick, with the cancer diagnosis fresh, and the chemotherapy underway, Cesar did not want to walk away or reduce his involvement. Instead, he asked to take full responsibility. Redmond agreed. While watching Cesar raise his insecure puppy into a balanced, confident adult, he had seen the bond between man and dog grow stronger with each passing year. So he gave his blessing for Daddy to be officially adopted by the Millan family. The chemotherapy was successful. Daddy recovered from the cancer. After weathering the treatment, Daddy even got the opportunity to present at the 56th Annual Creative Arts Emmy Awards. His name was added to a roster that included Cesar's beloved childhood heroes, Rin Tin Tin and Lassie. Daddy lived for another 6 years after his cancer diagnosis. With Daddy now 16 years old, did Cesar dare to imagine a future without his right-hand man? The successor. As Daddy grew older, Cesar knew that the day would come when he would no longer have his right-hand man by his side. He needed to prepare for that day. He needed to find a successor, a dog who could learn Daddy's temperament and prepare to assume Daddy's role after his death. The search led Cesar to South Central Los Angeles, the same neighborhood where he had first met Daddy 16 years earlier. There, he found a female pit bull with 8 puppies. Among them was a big-headed, solid blue puppy who caught Cesar's attention. He brought the puppy to Daddy. Immediately, old Daddy saw the puppy and he growled. That was not a good sign, so Cesar brought another puppy, a gray one named Junior. Daddy's reaction could not have been more different. He approached Junior, his tail wagging. He turned around and led Junior back to the car. Junior followed, and it was clear as day that Daddy had chosen his successor. Junior was trained similarly to Daddy. He learned from the master himself, observing Daddy's calm energy, his gentle interactions with other dogs, and his unwavering balance. When Daddy finally passed, Junior was ready to take over his duties. On February 19, 2010, at the age of 16, Daddy passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family. He had lived a long and full life, but that did not make the loss any easier. Cesar was devastated. The dog who had been his right-hand man, his true dog whisperer, his source of calmness, was no longer there. And then, 4 months later, his wife, Ilusion, filed for divorce. They had been married for 16 years with 2 sons. The marriage had been the stable private center of a very publicly unstable life. On June 4, 2010, Ilusion Cesar filed for divorce in the Los Angeles court, citing irreconcilable differences. Legal documents showed she was seeking primary physical custody of the kids with visitation for Cesar, then 40 years old, as well as spousal support. When it ended, the ground came out from under him completely. In May of that year, Cesar attempted to take his own life by overdosing on pills. He was found unconscious and hospitalized. Luckily, he survived even though he declined medication in the aftermath, choosing instead to work through the depression through exercise, discipline, and affection, and by throwing himself back into the work that had always given his life structure and meaning. He has since talked about the attempt with the same directness he brings to everything. He told Tampa Times that going through that experience changed how he understood the signs of depression, and that, as a father, Cesar now watches for those signs in his sons and the people around him with an attention he would not have had before. When Daddy finally passed, could the man who had lost his soul dog survive the grief? The end of an era.
His head is held high, his tail is wagging, and he's looking around curious as if he's open to making new friends. Now he just met Fala, and Fala is the very sweet back-at-the-pack dog.
Dog Whisperer continued through 2011 and into 2012. But it was a different show now, and everyone on the inside knew it. The man who had spent 9 years on television teaching people to be the stable, calm leader that their animals needed could not find calm anywhere inside himself. The show limped on, but the end was inevitable. What was happening behind the scenes at National Geographic, and what finally made them pull the plug? The official end of Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan came in September 2012 after 9 seasons and 175 episodes. Cesar announced it on Facebook, telling fans that the final season would begin that July, with back-to-back episodes on Nat Geo Wild, and that he was so thankful to all the Dog Whisperer fans who had embraced the show over the years. The statement said almost nothing about why the show was ending. The real reason was a tangle of factors that had been accumulating for years and had finally reached a combined weight. The network decided it was unwilling to carry any further. The ratings had been sliding. Not catastrophically, after all. 11 million loyal weekly viewers do not evaporate overnight, but enough to prompt the channel's leadership to have a conversation about whether the return justified the risk. The production costs had also increased over 9 seasons, which meant the show needed to perform at a high level just to break even, let alone justify renewal. The controversy never stopped. Instead, every season brought fresh coverage of the debate, and each fresh controversy made the show a less comfortable fit for a channel whose brand was built on scientific credibility and animal welfare. But there was another factor that the network's statements never fully captured. Cesar himself had been ready to end the show long before the network was. After everything, Cesar has become an international superstar. He wanted to take the next step in his career, with newer, bigger challenges that would take him worldwide. Though the television show had ended, was Daddy's work truly finished? A lasting legacy. The end of Dog Whisperer did not mean the end of Cesar Millan. If anything, what came after revealed more about the man than the show had been able to capture in 9 seasons of 60-minute episodes. Cesar launched Leader of the Pack in early 2013, a 12-episode series filmed around the world in the United Kingdom, Italy, the Netherlands, and Spain. The show gave unadoptable dogs a second chance by coaching families interested in adopting them. He also returned to television in 2014 with Cesar 911 on Nat Geo Wild, a show focused on emergency interventions with dogs in what he called the red zone, animals whose behavior was dangerous enough that their owners were days away from surrendering them or putting them down. The show ran for 4 seasons. In 2021, he returned to National Geographic with a new show called Cesar Millan, Better Human, Better Dog. The program focused on something the original show rarely had time for: the human side of the dog problem. Each 45-minute episode followed cases in which people brought their misbehaving dogs to work with Cesar at his dog psychology center. a 45-acre ranch in Santa Clarita, California. The show has run for 5 seasons and 60 episodes. He launched a YouTube channel that accumulated over 1 million subscribers. He toured the world with Cesar Millan Live, a stage production consisting of 1/2 lecture and 1/2 demonstration with local shelter dogs. Cesar fell in love again with a woman named Jahira Dar, proposing to her in Athens overlooking the Acropolis. But Cesar never forgot Daddy. In the wake of Daddy's death, Cesar wanted to ensure that his beloved companion's legacy would live on. He established the Daddy's Emergency Animal Rescue, Deer Fund, as part of the Cesar and Illusion Millan Foundation. The Deer Fund was created to provide assistance to dogs affected by large-scale disasters such as hurricanes, fires, and other natural catastrophes. It also helps dogs who have suffered from man-made disasters, such as hoarder and puppy mill rescues, as well as individual victims of abuse or violence. The fund is a fitting tribute to Daddy, who had spent his life rehabilitating countless dogs. Daddy's legacy also lives on through Junior, the protege he chose. After his death, Junior carried on Daddy's work, serving as a calming influence at Cesar's side while rehabilitating other dogs. But Junior's life was not without controversy. In 2021, a lawsuit alleged that Junior had attacked a gymnast and killed Queen Latifah's dog years earlier.
Cesar Millan has become famous as the dog whisperer, the man who can tame the most untrainable dogs. But now he's being sued, accused of having a pit bull that bit humans and even killed Queen Latifah's dog.
Cesar's representative denied the accusations, calling them a blatant lie. Sadly, Junior passed away at age 15 before the lawsuit was resolved. Daddy changed the world and the way people think about pit bulls. He changed Cesar Millan's life. And through Cesar, he changed the lives of countless dogs and their owners. What do you think about the bond Cesar shared with Daddy? And if you watched Dog Whisperer, which episode featuring Daddy stands out as your favorite? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.